Hello, everybody. It is 1:31 p.m. Central Time on the 28th of December, 2020. It's Monday here in the United States, and I'm doing an official update today. It's been a week. Took the Christmas week off. For those of you who celebrate the holiday, I hope you had a good one, and I hope you're ready to have a good new year, but we're kind of in between the two right now. Let me get a display capture turned on so you can see what I see, and we'll start over here again in the West Pacific. We're using the USGS and the EMSC coming out of Europe. Two agencies to give us a good idea of what struck over the last 48 hours, what we're looking at about right now, and the deep earthquakes, the earthquakes that are raised high off the globe, are deep down into the earth, and we have to pay attention to those deep quakes because spreading out from them, we usually see shallower, larger earthquakes spread up, out, and away from where these deep earthquakes take place. Now, again, if you're new, let me just quickly explain as well. We have letter D's on the map where we expect new deep earthquakes to occur, and within the last 15 minutes, a new deep 4.9 came in right next to our letter D, next to Japan. This is down at 444 kilometers deep. So that number might change. It might go up or down on the depth, but it's about a 5.0 earthquake down below Japan, which means we have to warn Japan in the next several days, 7 to 10 days, for a shallower, larger earthquake up to a magnitude larger. And that puts us up to 5.9, near 6.0. And we can look down between our sets of earthquakes to figure out the spots to watch. And you'll see there's another deep earthquake on the other side of the letter D that struck last night, and it's also a 4.6, and it's even deeper. This 4.6 is at 532 kilometers deep. So two deep fours right here down below Japan means something larger is coming in the next few days, and we look between our current sets of earthquakes to find the spot that's going to be hit. And do you see where all the sets of rings overlap here? Right at the tip of our arrow, right east of Tokyo. I'll warn right there now, we're going to be getting something in the probably 6.0 range in the next few days, 7 to 10 days or less, right where all the rings overlap. We also have a cluster of deep earthquakes that have been happening down here on our other letter D, which stands for deep earthquakes again, and it's been going on north of New Zealand in the Kermadec Islands. In between the two sets of deep quakes, we have another new deep earthquake on our other letter D. You see that there. Okay, so a series of deep earthquakes from Indonesia to Japan to Fiji. That means we're in the middle of another new deep earthquake event starting to take place. Imagine it like this. Everything from Fiji all the way up to Japan, thousands of miles, and thousands of miles back down to Indonesia, all moving in a day's time down below the plate. Coming up on the underside of the plate, which I can actually show you on the USGS plate boundary map over here where the red lines are. So going from here, up to here, back down to here. All of this on the underside of the plate, leveraging up, pushing up on the underside of the plate. And what I think is happening with those deep earthquakes, let me turn on a little video to show you. The deep earthquakes, I think a concentric standing wave is forming down inside of the magma. So in the magma, down below the plate, the waves are focusing in on each other. They have nowhere to go. They can't compress down into the fluid of the magma and then get pushed up in a giant spike up on the underside of the plate. This is happening most likely over hundreds, if not thousands of miles down below the plate. So each one of these sets of deep earthquakes, just like that, hammering in, and then it comes up, out, and moves away. What else is going on? Yes, Aussies. You guys started to move down here southwest, down by Perth. Now that follows the other two-ish range earthquake that came rolling in a couple days back, but it's pretty quiet in comparison to what's going on up to the north. But with all these deep earthquakes, we can expect a new push to come in from the north by northwest. So I would look for new activity out here, north by northwest. Then, following that, very soon following that, we'd see a new earthquake down near Uluru, Ayers Rock, and also new activity spread in the 3-ish range. So we're not seeing that yet. I think first we'll see the earthquake up here to the northwest, but it's going to all be a pretty quick succession of events now that the new deep earthquakes have started to take place up to your north on the plate boundaries. Okay, let's go down south by southwest of Australia, out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the ocean, 5.1 to 5.2, but you see our fracture zones, they go northeast to southwest. There are breaks that go all the way up and look like they connect into south of Australia. Well, we'll go back over to the plate boundary map and you'll see USGS has nothing there, do they? Right? But you can clearly see, coming off of Australia, going over to the west, some kind of giant ridge. Well, that ridge, if we go in and take a look, you'll see it's actually a craton edge, an interior portion of the plate. The plate boundary, again, goes all the way down here to the south, where the 5.1 to 5.2 is. Do you see the USGS has it marked here? Let me just make sure you guys can see all this. So the earthquake is on the quote-unquote plate boundary between Antarctica and Australia. The Indo-Australian plate is all of this, going up into India. But nothing here going out to the west. And you'll also see they don't have anything going from up here to down here. But nonetheless, there's a giant ridge. That's the Indo-Australian Ridge. I think that's the name of it, actually. Indo-Australian Ridge. It goes up into India, Indian waters, and all the way down. Now, it meets up and goes over to the west, and then our fracture zones continue on down to the south. Now, you'll see I've got 2 arrows on the map here, and we go back to the USGS map, and they don't have anything going across the Indian Ocean. The reason they don't have anything, they're not looking for anything to transfer across it. And we know and certainly see it happen over and over again. A series of earthquakes spread across and up and over. And that's what happened today. A new 4.5 struck on the plate boundary again, which I'll show to you, and a 5.2 at the Gulf of Aden, right on the back end of our arrow. And you're going to notice 5.2 is a number we're going to be repeating now for a little bit, but let's go over and one more time look on the arrow map that we have here. So coming across the Indo-Australian plate, we go up to the north, and right at the mouth of the Gulf of Aden, if you compare to the USGS map here, look where the red lines come together. That's where the new earthquake is. So 5.2 here, 4.5 here, on the red line as energy's traveling across, hits the plate boundary like a wall, spreads up it, tries to equalize out across it, and that's exactly what happened down here to the south. Now, I've been doing short micro updates on my Twitch channel live. Haven't been recording them, but I have been getting on every other day, or pretty much every day actually, and just saying hi, letting people know I'm still around, but just not recording any videos for YouTube for the week. Again, taking the week off. It's Christmas week. Didn't take any weeks off really for the whole year. Yeah. Okay, so, well, anyway, up to the north, look what happened. 5.2. Right north of Afghanistan. Now, why does that matter? That was the open area that I talked about in my last live update. And it's the same sized earthquake that struck down here at the Gulf of Aden. So wait a second. 5.2 here, 5.2 here, a day apart. This one struck first up on land, up on the plate boundary north of Afghanistan. Let me show you. Right up here. Here's Afghanistan, north of Afghanistan. Here's the red line, the plate boundary. 5.2 up here, 5.2 down here in the Arabian Sea going into the Gulf of Aden. Same size energy distributing out across, going out of China over to the west. Now, over to the west, a series of interesting things happened over the past few days. First of all, middle of the plate boundary in Iran got hit by mid-range 4. It's almost the exact same sized earthquake that struck down here, 4.5. And again, make note of that because a 4.4 and a 5.2 on one side and a 4.5 and a 5.2 on the other. In other words, 2 of the same sized earthquakes spreading out across the whole region from the Indian Ocean all the way up into Iran. But where did the earthquake strike in Iran? See the red line. Again, the red line, the plate boundary, 4.4. Turkey, man, what happened there? We just got to talk about this. Do you see this 5.5 earthquake? Started out as a 5.4. Then they took it up to a 6.4, which is 6.4 for several hours. Then they took it back down to a 5.5. Now, whether it's a 5.5 or a 6.5, that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. Tenfold. Okay, so, I mean, we're talking about whether it's a 5.5 or a 6.5, basically. That's a big deal. But they went ultimately with 5.5, and the spot where it struck is right here on the red line. Again, this is in eastern Turkey. Let me turn down the rings a little. There we are. Now, let's go over and look at the USGS map in eastern Turkey. Do you notice anything over here in eastern Turkey? It's a big open area between two red lines. Now, the USGS should connect those. I don't know why they don't have them connected. They are connected. They're connected with the mountain range, which I can even show you on Google Earth. Let's go over and take a good old look at Google Earth. There we are. And maybe I need to turn off the borders and labels, but we're looking at Turkey right now. And you see the mountain range comes right across, and we have volcanic segments that connect between the two. So again, I do not understand why the USGS does not connect those plate boundaries across eastern Turkey. The earthquake struck right in the middle, in between the two. And guess what's right in the middle, in between the two? Let's turn our borders and labels back on again. Let's find the body of water just to be safe. So it's west of there. West of there. It's somewhere right out here in the mountain range, and we're right next to Karakadag. Karakadag, also known as Karakakaladağ, is a broad basaltic shield volcano in southeast Turkey, about 100 kilometers north of the Syrian border. The volcano lies on the Arabian foreland, about 150 kilometers southwest of the boundary with the Anatolian plate. It's been active since the Pliocene. Oh, wow. Well, it's huge. First of all, look at the size of it. Right here in the middle, you see it, but the former plateau that made it is massive. I would call it more like a lava field. Look how many there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then like on the side of them, this is something like an old Mauna Loa or something on the side of. Just huge. And here's the lava flows themselves. And the youngest flows, there's a cone and a lava flow there, but the whole volcanic field is just massive. So we're on the edge of a volcanic field, on the edge of the plate boundary. A 6.4 earthquake or 5.5. Now, why does that matter, whether it's a 6.4 or 5.5? Because since then, 2 significant sized earthquakes struck, going up the red line again, in Greece, and the major activity up at the Croatia-Bosnia-Slovenia border. Just not hit every day. Look, right where the arrow points to. Now, the small arrow points right up to where the earthquake struck. And this is really on the southeast tip, I would say more of the Alps than it is on the Central European plateau. But North Italy, over to the west, let me just show you this. Here, the red line again. And notice both earthquakes are on the interior side of that. We can go back and we find more of them. Almost all the same. On the interior side of the plate boundary, meeting up with another plate. So a significant sized earthquake struck up here, and I don't know how many felt reports are on this quake. Well, actually, let's just go see. 300 felt reports on the USGS site for an earthquake over in Croatia. I don't know if there was any damage on this. I really don't. There likely was some damage with this size of an earthquake and the swarm that's broken out since, but I just have to tell everybody in Croatia the same thing that I would tell everybody over in Italy, and the same thing I would tell people down here in Greece, that your energy flows to you coming out of Turkey, and Turkey, you can look back over to the east, all the way over into Asia, and that's where your energy comes from. So in other words, it's like a flowing river. And if you see a lot of activity start to flow in, which we did, now over the past several days, it's gone up into Central Europe. It's not going to stop there. It's going to carry on and go out across Europe. And actually, just 2 days ago, Scotland, or in between Ireland and Scotland, right on the red arrow, got hit with a small earthquake, a 2-ish sized quake. I would expect, now that 5s have come into Central Europe, that we would see at least 4.0 activity go up into Poland again, and new 4.0 activity to also break out, or near 4.0, don't fault me, no pun intended, if it comes in the 3-ish range, but I would think up to 4 would strike in the English Channel, the coast of Normandy, South UK. We have to warn everybody pretty much from London all the way down south to the coast of France. In France, we would call that tremblement de terre, an earthquake. So watch out in the next several days. Look, there's a 5 coming rolling into Central Europe. Let me explain it this way. Go back over to the USGS map. Here's the plate boundary. We're right on the inside edge. We got a 6 or a 5. We don't know. They changed it around. 6 or a 5. And the energy has come rolling in and coming up into Central Europe. Energy doesn't stop. It'll transform, it'll transfer, but it will not stop. So it's going to try to maintain momentum across the landmass of Europe. But it's not like it's going to drop off a whole boatload of earthquakes along the way. It's going to reach out to the edge, to the weakest point, and break there, which tends to be on the coast of France, going up into the English Channel in South UK. So we've seen this happen enough that if a 5 comes rolling into South Europe or greater, a 5 or greater, we look for something about a magnitude to a magnitude and a half less to strike out along the perimeters of Europe. And when I say perimeters of Europe, I mean it not just up in the English Channel. We should also simultaneously see about the same sized activity go down to Algeria, all the way west following the plate boundary. Now lately we've been going down to the Canaries, down here. But normally the flow goes all the way out to the Azores and dead ends like a T intersection in a road or a river flowing into a chasm. So this is going to flow out and around to the south as well. It's also going to go up and out across Central Europe. It's also going to go around the east side of Europe, hence my warning for Poland. So Poland, North France, all the way down here along Algeria, and finally out at the letter X. One moment, please. Okay, getting a cup of coffee here. Hold on. Ooh, piping hot. You know what? I want to thank Great Escape Coffee Company, who sent me custom Dutch Since blend coffee. I had it for sale for forever, and they discontinued it with COVID and all the lockdown and everything. They went back to other stuff. They still do coffee making. They make their own coffee, and they sent me a couple big bags of it just for Christmas. I placed an order. They put it in there. I'm like, wow. So I'm actually drinking my old Dutch Since blend. I've been out for a while. So it's good. All right. I hate to brag about that. Sorry. Hey, I'm wearing my giant Snuggie, which is really called a comfy. They're like the hottest thing. All right. It's like a Snuggie, but with Sherpa on the inside. All right. Thank the Duchess for that. Now let's jump over go across the Pacific, go over into Central and South America, where the noteworthy size earthquake that struck down here right along the coast of Chile. Now the good news is, struck out in the ocean, no tsunami generated, or at least nothing anyone reported of any size, but 6.7 earthquake can't be scoffed at. It's a significant sized quake for the whole planet, but for the coast of Chile, we have seen 1, 2, almost even 3 magnitude larger earthquakes strike in these areas. The largest earthquake recorded ever in recorded history struck right down here in Chile, which was like a 9.5 back in 1960. But, that, by the way, that was the largest earthquake in world history recorded, 9.5. But this is a 6.7. Again, it's out in the ocean. Didn't cause much damage from what I understand. Let's see if there's actually any felt reports filed with the USGS. So let's just quickly take a look. Yeah, 174 felt reports in Corral, Chile. And that's pretty significant because it's not even like it's U.S. citizens making the report. So for the USGS to even accept any reports. Now it's about 150 miles or 100 miles off the coast. Again, like I said, that's good. It may even have put a few buoys into event mode, which causes shaking on the buoys and starts to get them to blink, but from what I understand, no wave came in. But where did the 6.7 come from? Well, it came from the same energy that transferred across this past week, And we saw new earthquakes develop out across the middle of the Pacific. Now you see we've got two arrows there. If we go back over to the USGS map, they don't have anything across the Pacific either. Energy transfers from our deep earthquakes that I showed you at the start of this update. One more time, let's go back and show you. Hammering in on the underside of the plate, one of these concentric waves, or a series of them, creating deep earthquake activity down below the plate. But that spreads out and across, tries to equally distribute itself out. We saw new activity come out, cross, over, and down. Now we have to go back to this past week when we had 6.0 range activity up here to the north. And it was about the same size. It was like a 6.4, I believe. And maybe we need to turn on the 30-day feed to see that. Not even necessary, but noteworthy sized earthquake also struck up here in North Chile, right at the Bolivia, Argentina, Chile border region. Now the south side compensates. In my last little micro update, which again I did not record, you just had to catch it live over on Twitch, we talked about watching Peru. Now Peru is filled in with two earthquakes, a 5.0 and a 5.7. I'll call the 5.7 a significant size quake. It's not huge, it's not major, it's not large, but it's significant. It's enough to get your attention. And it struck right next to the volcano. There's a volcano in between these two, Sabancaya volcano, up to the north. Look at the lack of earthquakes in the last day. Let's go back 2 days. Let's go back 3 days. Let's go back 5 days. Let's go back 6 days. We have to go back 6 days to get an earthquake in the middle here. Do you see where the rings overlap on the pinkish colored earthquakes? They overlap on Ecuador. And there's a letter V there that stands for Reventador volcano. The V stands for volcano, not Reventador. But let's just go look at the volcanic ash advisories. What? This must be an exercise of some kind? I've never seen this. Fictitious. That's not spelled properly. Fictitious. Fictitious. Chile. Exercise. Let's see what it is. EXER. This is only a volcanic ash advisory exercise. Please disregard. Okay, no problem. A little training. We want everybody to be fully trained. Let's go down the list here. Okay, so Sanjay in Ecuador and Reventador in Ecuador, two volcanoes side by side. Let's go see if Reventador is even on the list. Wow, hold on. Reventador, unless I'm missing it, is not on the list. Only Sanjay is on the list. Well, I stand corrected. Where the rings overlap, we have to go right next to them. Not on the letter V, but right next to it. Sanjay is erupting. One volcano erupting here in the middle. Now, I noticed somebody on the list that we haven't seen in a minute. Mount Sinabung, B-U-N-G, Sinabung. 10,000 foot high blast, which is pretty small for that volcano. We've seen it do 20, 30, 40, and even 50,000 foot high blast come from that volcano. So 10 is moderate for that volcano, or low. Sakurajima several times, Suwanizajima several times, Popocatépetl in Mexico several times. Reventador from... No, it is on the list. I just missed it somehow. Wait, hold on. Mount Bromo is back on the list today. 9,000 foot high blast at Mount Bromo. Santa Guido is back on the list. These are new additions since yesterday. Gluchevskoy? Anybody else? All right. Well, man. Okay. Well, I got to show you where these are. So, right here, Sanjay. We go all the way up to the north, and we have Santa Guido and Fuego volcanoes, both in Guatemala here, and Popocatépetl erupting right here in Mexico. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We get down to the south, and we have Sabancaya volcano right in the middle of this whole hot mess. Right here. So I guess you could say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 to 5. Let's just put it that way. Jumping all the way across over here into Indonesia. Looks like Indonesia is starting to light up with new volcanic activity. So, Mount Sinabung is right here where our letter V is. Mount Bromo is right here. Right. Actually, hold on. Or is that Mount Ibu? I haven't had to look up Bromo in a long time. Let's go take a look. Inquiring minds want to know. Glad I checked. Different location entirely. East Java. All right. Ibu is right over here. So Ibu is over here, but East Java, Mount Bromo. Mount Sinabung, Mount Bromo. So we're lighting up across the area where there's no seismic activity in the last day. Eruption here and eruption here. Okay, now that we've talked about the volcanoes, now that we've talked... did I talk about Japan's volcanoes? I did not. Hold on. Japan, volcanoes here, Sakurajima and Suwanisejima, both erupting in South Japan. Now we can move on. United States. We have to incorporate in Canada, eh? Hey, get your Molsons, guys. Finally. Jeez, hell froze over when Canada froze over. Let's go over here and go take a look at this 3.4 in Canada. Oh, Canada. Come on, everybody, sing along with me. Yeah, I that's all I know. Sorry, guys. All right, let's put the coordinates in. Paste, search. I don't know how to say this in French. Oui? All right, no, that's France French. France French is different than Canadian French, isn't it? Don't you have more of a twang? Okay, here we are. Well, hey, you know, what are the chances? What are the chances we'd be next to a bunch of high voltage transmission lines? 1, 2, 3, and then it splits off. 2 in one direction, or is that 3 in one direction? 2 in one direction, 1 in the other. Right at the split at the juncture, right next to them, that's where the earthquake is coming in. We have so many of these earthquakes that come in next to these high voltage power lines and high voltage generators. So we have the power generating facilities and the transmission lines. And the earthquakes are coming in right next to them, within a few miles. And the only explanation I can come up with, it's not chance or coincidence at this point, because it's not like there's these high voltage lines everywhere, the kind where they do the, 3 of these across. It's just not everywhere. And to get the earthquakes next to them, it's getting too many to be chance or coincidence. So we have to figure out what's causing it. Some kind of piezoelectric energy down in the crust, coming up into the power lines, or being discharged out of the power lines, going down into the crust, maybe. Certainly an electrical component to the earthquake activity, but we are also on the edge of the craton, perfectly on the edge of the craton. The edge of the craton goes right up to the split up here to the north and carries on and goes out to the east. You might even be able to see it here. Kind of looks like a little passage, or maybe I can show it to you on Earthquake 3D a little bit better. Here, looks like it's been dredged or something. No, that's like 100 miles across, and it's a crack in the plate that goes out across and back down on the edge of the craton. So 3.4 coming into the far northeast. Now last week we flopped out on our warning, or was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago we flopped out on our warning for right here, Delaware, and instead the earthquake struck right down here. So now we've got new activity coming across Georgia and North Carolina. Again, a new earthquake has struck in the last 24 to 48 hours down here on the southeast edge of the North American craton. If we go back across, we can trace this following the craton edge one more time. Look at the southern edge of the craton going through the New Madrid seismic zone in Missouri, back across Oklahoma, back down through Texas, and making that U-shaped bend down through Texas. Well, that's the path the earthquakes took coming from the west coast. It's a perfect match. Now, if we go back a few days, check this out. Look at the last 6 days worth of earthquakes. So we have a 3.3 to 3.4 earthquake striking at the pumping operations at New Mexico-Colorado border region. We also have 3.3 to 3.4 earthquake activity, actually 3.5, striking down in Southern California, right here. So it's about the same size going across the Craton edge. And over into Oklahoma, guess what size hit? 3.3, somewhere in that range. Let's actually get that open and see what they actually came out with on that. What did they end up coming up with? Well, that's not opening. Uh-oh. Why is this not opening? Did I just get cut off on the internet? I did. They killed my internet connection. They just killed my internet connection. They're killing it right now. Somebody's bombing me. I have a fiber optic connection, for crying out loud. You gotta be kidding me, man. They're bombing me. Yeah, go ahead and scan. Are they like taking information off my PC when I come onto their site? You know, does it give me some kind of system scan? What the hell? Kills my internet connection? How does that happen? How does a visit to the USGS site kill my internet connection? Wouldn't that mean they're getting my IP and then bombarding me quickly with like a bunch of packet requests or something? Isn't that what it means? My goodness gracious. Let's close all these windows. I just wanted to see what the magnitude was, for crying out. Look, they're hitting me again. Look at my available bandwidth. My available bandwidth is 11. I've got fiber, man. I've got like hundreds of megs available up and down. I'm only using like 3 of them. I'm using 4 megs out of hundreds. And as soon as I shut their site, dude, we're done. That's so lame. I'm so tired of getting messed with, man. I really am. Wouldn't you? If you were just trying to do earthquakes and you're getting shut down for trying to... I'm glad I'm recording this. It doesn't matter if it's breaking down on the stream. I'm recording this unedited. It's going to be crystal clear and smooth. And I'm uploading it over on YouTube. So whether you kill me live or not, USGS, or whoever works for you, maybe you hired a bunch of paid pets to come in and take me down, whatever. I know you got a problem with what I'm doing still, but hey, you know, I'm just trying to help. This is the way science is done. This is science right here. Observable, fighting against a bunch of dogma. It's like they're the old school church from the Dark Ages, and I'm Galileo, only not nearly as sophisticated. Oh, man. I'm earning my place in the history books, for crying out loud. And it isn't easy, guys. Trust me. It looks glamorous from afar. It's one of these situations that's called good from far, yet far from good. You might experience that at some point in your life. All right. Now, let's go ahead and turn on the last day's worth of earthquake. 0.0 and greater. 24 hours worth. I'm telling you guys. Getting shut down for visiting a website. Are we still shut off? Am I still off? Oh no, I'm all green. I'm okay now. Gee, what's the difference? Everything else is still open. All right, the last day. So we already talked about the earthquake up here on the edge of the Craton up to the northeast. We already talked about the earthquakes down in Texas that hit yesterday. We already talked about the earthquakes in Missouri and over on North Carolina, again, edge of the Craton. And we already talked about the earthquakes even at Colorado. I didn't show them to you, but Colorado's pumping operations. Texas is pumping operations. Oklahoma is pumping operations. And then once we get over to the east, it's strictly on the Craton edge. So the drill points are getting hit across the middle of the plate. They're the weak points. Now, Mother Nature is seeking out those weak points. And naturally, it used to go over into the New Madrid seismic zone here and get stuck in this N-shaped bend of the plate. The flow. Here, let me show it to you. We can even show it to you on the actual topography on Google Earth. And let's turn off the borders and labels. Here's Missouri as a point of reference in the middle. And you can see the N-shaped bend going down into the U-shaped bend of the New Madrid seismic zone. Now, the Mississippi River Valley comes down and goes down to Louisiana, but I'm talking about the mountains. They go up, down, and around and go back up the edge of the Craton this way. Okay, energy used to flow down across Texas. One more time, Craton diagram. Down through Texas, back up, over, and get stuck in here in this steep bend of the plate. But now humans from Texas all the way across over into Arkansas, even into Illinois, have drilled all of this. Going down, around, back up, over, up to here, skipping over Missouri in the New Madrid seismic zone right across Missouri, but going up across Arkansas, all drilled thousands of times in each state, tens of thousands. Going up and around, back down through Mississippi and Alabama, all this is drilled. And I can show it to you. You don't have to take my word for it. I've got all the place marks turned on for different pumping operations across each area. That's what clutters up the map so much. So, going across, you see all these yellow place marks. Every yellow place mark, for every one that I've got, there's thousands more that are not marked. But just to show you what they look like, you have to zoom in really close. There we are. Just one example. Frac wells all over the area, though. Every one of these little pads in the area is a different frac well. And there's 500,000 different drill points across Oklahoma in its own right. Now, why am I taking the time to show this to you? Look at this. We've got a bunch of hot spots that are suddenly appearing today. All of a sudden. This is the current readout of hot spots across all these states. Alabama, Tennessee. You'll notice something about the hot spots. They're matching the edge of the craton, even the wavy edge of it, going down, around, and through Tennessee, back up across Virginia. Come on. That is amazing. So a series of hot spots are appearing. Oh, and going back across Arkansas, bending down through Texas, mimicking the edge of the craton all the way over to central Texas for the most part. Well, the hot spots are an entirely different thing that we need to talk about at a different time. Now, their earthquakes go the same path that those hot spots that I just told you about. The earthquakes take that same trajectory. Texas, Oklahoma, back up the East Coast. Now, in 24 hours' time, the number of earthquakes since yesterday dropped off completely. Again, we're talking about a 2.0 and a 1.9 in Oklahoma in the last 24 hours. Let me hit refresh on this just to make sure. Yeah. So, in the last 24 hours, 2 earthquakes in the Midwest. One 3.4, that's from the flow over this past week. Again, you got to remember, 3s went across the plate. The only thing missing was a new mid-range 3 striking over on the east edge of the North American craton. But now, it's gone quiet across the craton. Now, over on the west coast, we're still moving. But even here, Yellowstone, Idaho, Utah, 2 earthquakes in Utah, just south of Salt Lake. 4 earthquakes in Idaho. We've seen stacks going into the dozens, if not hundreds here. Yellowstone, not a single earthquake reported. There are tremors, little vibrations as the magma shifts down below Yellowstone. Hundreds of those, if not thousands of those, happen every day. But no earthquake activity, no actual fracturing going on in the plate. We have to get all the way up here to the edge of the craton in Montana and look at the craton edge in Montana. Pretty wild, right? Goes right down into Yellowstone. We have a series of earthquakes coming in, and they're small. They're all zeros for the most part on the edge of the craton. Now, as I'm talking here, a new 3.0 earthquake that could be felt just struck in Seattle. In the Puget Sound region, according to the Europeans. Hold on. Lake Marcel, Stillwater, Washington. Stillwater. Okay. Washingtonians, let's go look this up together, shall we? Let me get a sip of my coffee while we go look it up. Okay. Oh, wow. Wow, look what we're next to. We're next to a series of high-voltage power lines again. The big kind, not the kind that go to your house. The giant towers that carry transmission lines in for a city, for instance. And it's right at a junction point again, where it splits off. Or no, where they come together. This one is where they come together, or maybe it is where they split. Maybe it comes down from the north, and one splits this way, and the other splits to the west. Yeah, well, that's where we are. We are right next to a series of high-voltage power lines. What else do we have here? Well, there's fences going across this, so I don't know what to make of that. Oh, wait. More high voltage power lines. Let's see. A set of power lines underneath the set of power lines. We have a convergence of power lines. One set on towers, the other set on large poles. Wow. I told you there's too many of these. And it's not like we have the high voltage transmission lines everywhere. Some only have one set per county. To get them right down next to it again within a few hundred feet. And again, now we have, this is a triangle of them. One set going this way, west and east. The other going, again, southwest to northeast and northwest to southeast. It's making a triangle. And right there where they all overlap, that's where the earthquake is. Within just a few hundred feet. New 3.0 earthquake. Now, isn't there a fault there as well? I think there is. Let's go check. I think it's the Seattle fault. From what I understand, the name of the fault there is. It's just north of the Seattle fault. Hey, check this out. It's really where the two come in together. Now, they haven't mapped it. Look where they stop. They stop right along here. I guarantee you the fault does not just stop right there. Probably carries on and goes all the way down. These two probably meet up at Redmond and Bellevue. It's just a guess. That is just a guess on my part, but let's go look at the names. I know the one is called the Seattle Fault, going west to east. This? Seattle Fault Zone. What's this? Name. Southern Whidbey Island Fault Zone. But you can see the trajectory the fault is taking. If you just were to connect these two, it would bring it in right where the earthquake is. Somewhere, and that's where all the high voltage power lines are, right there. So, electrical induced earthquake activity. Let's go down to the south and go take a look at the 0.5. Ashford, Washington. 8.8 kilometer depth. So this is down in the crust, but it's right below something. We're jumping from the power lines and where the two faults come together. And we're right at the foot of, or right at the base of, Mount Rainier. This is a famous volcano. You guys know about it if you live up in the Northwest, that's for sure. And this updated imagery, by the way, the imagery updated, and this is a fissure. That is a fissure in the crater, guys. And maybe people walk across it. It might be that people walk across this. It could be. I don't know. Never been there. Don't want to go there. You couldn't pay me enough money to get up on there? Never, not in a million years. We'll send a drone. Okay, there we go. So we're right on the foot of the volcano. That's normal for this volcano. We get earthquakes right below the crater itself. Happened this past week, right below here. Then we see earthquakes spread around the outside edge. Think of a tent where you're pushing up the center pole first, like in a circus tent, for instance, and then the outside edges start to rise afterwards. First the center rises, then the outside edges rise. But then again, this electrical induced earthquake up here, right next to the power lines, cannot be dismissed. If we go down to the south, let's go look up the 0.8. Amboy, Washington, northeast of Amboy, 30 kilometers. What is 30 kilometers northeast of Amboy, Washington? Take a look. Just like Mount Rainier, we're right on the edge of, or the flank of, Mount St. Helens. And we were, just a month ago or so, in the crater itself with earthquakes. Now we're around the outside edge again. And you could even arguably say this new earthquake is coming in really next to Marble Mountain, which is an old andesitic shield volcano just south of the volcano. It's ancient to call this even a volcano. I mean, it is. It's from a long time ago. Okay, so let's recap. Earthquake next to power lines. Earthquake at Mount Rainier at the base of. Earthquake at Mount St. Helens at the base of. Same sized earthquake struck over here to the east. Entiat, Washington. Entiat. What is there? Let's go look. Ah, yes. Waterville. Backing this out. Entiat, Washington. Oh, wait. Look what we have. we have another series of extremely large, high-voltage power lines. 3 sets of 3. So really, or actually, no, wait. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 18 high-voltage power lines going on across this area. And it bends, and they all go this way. Just huge. Those are big. That's big. And the earthquake's right next to it. Is there anything else here? Where are those power lines coming from? I guess we need to go over here and take a look. Is this a hydroelectric generating dam of some kind? Oh, well, yes it is. And it's not just a small one. Look at the size of that. Look at the output on that. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of electric. That's where it's coming from. Look at these substations coming off of there. Okay? Do you get the point now? Let's go down into Oregon. Oh, wait. They're making my job easy again. Every day they make my job easy. Such an easy life up in Oregon. Not a bit of seismic activity. You guys are totally not prone for seismic. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. I'm thinking of The Naked Gun, where he's standing in front, Leslie Nielsen standing in front of an exploding fireworks factory. And he's telling everybody, nothing to see here. Please move. There's no earthquake activity reported here, so there's nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? Now, let's carry on. Let's go look at the tremors and see if there's any tremors that have happened in the area. Now, look at that. As of yesterday, 83 different little vibrations. Each one of these does have a magnitude assigned to it, but they're vibrations as the plate shifts. It's not really faults breaking, it's the plate shifting. Hence they're called tremors as opposed to earthquakes. But here, 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 and here, or 2 spots in Northern California, 2 spots in Oregon. So no earthquakes in Oregon, but we're shifting in Oregon and Northern California. Let's go over back a day, and we're only in Oregon with 69 on the 26th. So on December 26th, 2 days ago, 69 tremors, only in Oregon, with no earthquakes, by the way. And then here, next day, the 27th, yesterday, 83, and it's spread out down into California from Oregon, but it's still moving in Oregon. So what do Northern California, Southwest Oregon, Central Oregon, Northwest Oregon, what do they all have in common? Let me show you on the USGS plate boundary map. Yet once again, we're going to the red line map. And what do Oregon, Northern California, and Washington all have in common? They're all right on the edge of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. These pinnacle points that point into North America. And look, for instance, where the newest 3.0 earthquake struck. You see where these 2 faults come together? One fault goes up into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The other fault goes out into the Olympic Peninsula, but both connect into this, the northern arm of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. And the Pacific plate has these jagged edges that point into North America like arrows. And we see tremors break out where the arrows point in. So for instance, right here, the pinnacle tip points into Southwest Oregon, and Northern California, the southern arm, points into Northern California. So Northern California, Southwest Oregon, if you go look at the tremor map, it matches where the arrow points in, tremors here, and where the fracture zone or the plate boundary comes in and goes down into California on the San Andreas, where it makes that bend, this part starts to shift. So I call this the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca out in the ocean. Let's go back and show it to you. Out here, I call this the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca. And the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca points into and transfers up into. You got to understand, this is down below this. That, again, we're at below sea level, of course. Like physically, we're going down to the floor of the ocean, which is low enough down below the plate already, thousands of feet. But the crack even goes further. It goes all the way down through the bottom of the plate. So it's pushing up into North America. And we get tremors up inside of the plate here as it's vibrating, as this part's creating tension and pushing in. Now, they tell us that this part is pushing in and down I'm seeing the seismic activity come in and up. And it could be that the seismic takes place in the exact opposite way than the shifting takes place. So the plate may very well be going down, but the earthquakes come up. And that's exactly what we're seeing with all these little tremors up inside of North America, right along the coast. That the tremors are, these little red dots, are being caused by tension coming from out here, transferring into here. And it's taking place right now in the past 2 days, coming in from Oregon into Northern California. And we have to pay attention to what's coming into Northern California and Oregon because it transfers over to the edge of the craton and down the edge of the craton, going down to California, of course. Now, let's get in one more time. Take a look. California. 24 hours worth of activity. Let's just make sure this is 24. And again, I got to check because this looked low too. The number of earthquakes here in California is low in comparison to where we've seen it in the past. Make note of each spot that has 1 or 2 earthquakes at it now. And within a couple days, we should see this flare back up to where there's huge stacks of earthquakes going up off the screen to the point where you can't even get them on the screen. Right now, this number of earthquakes, we call that the frequency. The frequency is low. So if we had a fast rolling drum, think of a snare drum, somebody rolling it really fast, and then you slow down the beat a little bit. And that's where we are now. We're not fully slow. It's not just the tap of a drum, but it's also not an extremely fast drum roll. I would expect this drum roll, or the frequency, to increase. The magnitude, or the power behind it, the amplitude, the sound, if you're turning up the volume, I would expect it to be louder. I would expect it to be bigger. I would expect there to be more seismic activity and for each earthquake to be somewhat bigger than what we're looking at now. The magnitudes, 0s, 1s, and 2s, with a couple 3s mixed in. I would expect it to be 2s, 3s, and 4s, with a 5 mixed in. So that's all, like turning up the volume. We're going to get ready to turn it up in California. Now, the answer to where it's going to hit is determined by the earthquakes over the past couple days, the spots in between. So we look at our in-between points between our clusters of earthquakes to determine the next spots to get hit. So, for instance, we have a cluster of earthquakes here on the creeping section of the San Andreas with the pink and the greenish-colored earthquake, the youngest, the most recent. And then up here on the north side, a bunch of 0s, 1s, and 2s, striking at the volcano at Clear Lake. Sorry, guys, I got a cat. Got a cat. Don't even want to know what she's doing. All right. So, 0s, 1s, and 2s up at the volcano, the geothermal pumping operation, where they're generating electricity, high voltage again. And I can show that to you. The name of the place, the geysers, the name should just speak for itself as to what's there. Geysers, of course. Geyserville, California. But they've tapped into this to get steam to turn the turbines, to make the electrical power. And we are really right at where they're generating the power. So it's another spot where there's high voltage. But this is on the side of a volcano that also has a series of faults, and itself is right next to the San Andreas. And I mean it. It is really right next to the San Andreas. So that little swarm of earthquakes happening right here at the volcano, Clear Lake. But notice the proximity of the Macama Fault Zone to the San Andreas. It's right next to it. And it all ties back in up here. Again, you got to remember, this is all shifting with the little tremors. So this is vibrating and shifting. Then earthquakes break out. Actual quakes break out on the faults as the shifting translates into the plate and it starts to move. It's just very basic. But once we get down here, we have a volcano on one side, we have the creeping section and the Hayward Fault on the other side of the Bay Area, and that middle point between the two sets of quakes should get a new earthquake. Something that's larger than what's on all sides now. And if we take them all and add them together, we're getting to about maybe a upper 2 worth of energy, so not very big. I would still look in the middle for something a full magnitude larger. So mid-range 3 to 4.0. Instead of a mid-range 2 to 3, we'll watch for a mid-range 3 to 4, 1 magnitude higher. The plate is shifting up here again. As we get further to the south, we have an open area here, right along the coast. This is the most famous creeping section, part of the creeping section of the San Andreas, Parkfield, right in the middle in between our two sets of quakes. Now, I'm actually going to look across the valley over here from Parkfield. Energy transfers across the valley and down the valley. So we will warn over here on this side of the valley. I hope I got this right. And this is where the largest of the bunch should strike. And what did I say? It should go up to near 5.0. So a new incoming 5 between Long Valley and Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Butte, that 150 mile stretch right here across the border. I would expect it to hit soon in the next few days. Additionally, down to the south, we should see the number of earthquakes increase back down here, down at Ridgecrest, China Lake, Kozo Volcanic Field. The number of earthquakes should definitely increase. How many do we have here? Like 15? The number of earthquakes is low. The frequency is low here. Like I said, all of California has gone low. But this will definitely go up in the number of quakes. The magnitude should top out around upper 3. Let's put it at 3.9. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong and bigger magnitudes come in, we'll know it. If I'm wrong, we'll know it. Over to the east, the nuclear test sites have been moving. This is all next to nuclear. Except for, technically this one is next to Area 51. But the rest of these, 3, here, and here, are all at the nuclear test sites down next to Doomtown, Operation Rise Line, which I've shown 1,000 times in previous updates. Over here, we're next to Clayton Valley Volcanic Center. See where it just says California-Nevada border region? That's pretty rare. They don't normally triangulate coordinates from a border region. Let's go see how close we are to Clayton Valley. There's the Ubehebe craters. Ubehebe. Okay, we're actually fairly far from Crater Flats. Where's Clayton? I'm just missing it. Crater Flats. Where's my Clayton Valley marker? Oh, man. It's going to bug me now. All right. Well, actually, we're much closer to Ubehebe craters. We're just a matter of miles from the center of the craters. So I'll say we're closer to Ubehebe, obviously, than we are to Crater Flats. Let me turn on the terrain so you can get a depth on this. Look at this. And there we are. We're going down inside of the crater there. Just amazing. So we're about 15 miles, I would say. Let's get a measurement on that. Maybe 20 miles. Oh, no, it's good. Good guess. 13 miles to the earthquake from the Ubehebe craters. I always look 40 miles, 40 miles. Magma chambers can shift extremely far over a long period of time. So nuke test sites over to the east, 0.8 over to the west, both at weak points in the crust, whether they're made by men or whether they're made by Mother Nature, doesn't matter. Weak points get hit. I would expect the magnitudes, like I said, down on Ridgecrest to go back up to the upper 3 level. And then, LA. We struck out last week when we were looking for an earthquake up here on the San Andreas. Instead, a new fire broke out. New hotspots and fires broke out down to the south. What's going on up here in North LA, though? We have 2 earthquakes. The number of earthquakes up here in North LA is very low as well. Chatsworth, California. By the way, the predominance of the activity is down here where our hotspots were, down in Mexico. The hotspots from last week that I made a big deal about, looked up and pulled them up in the Sonoran Desert, talked about it, then, boom, a bunch of earthquakes broke out right there. So just worthy of note, pay attention to the hotspots. We can see earthquakes develop out where the hotspots are. And the hotspots are coming in next to power lines, just like the earthquakes are. So wait, we have hotspots and earthquakes both happening next to power lines. What's this? What do you make of that? Dude, what kind of house is that? My God. Who the heck lives there? George Jetson in the future bubble or something. What is this? What are all these? Are these all mansions of some kind? Sure looks like it. Sure does. Somebody's living pretty high on the hog out here. Must be nice. Okay. Do we have anything else here of any significance? Oh, wait. Uh-oh. You know, again, this is far enough away that it's kind of out of sight, out of mind for most people. They won't really think about it. Up here on the north side, the fracking, drilling, oil pumping operation. But they're also doing geothermal, and they're also doing storage at this location. Do you guys remember what happened here? I believe this is the Aliso Canyon location. Let's just make sure. Aliso, yeah, there it is. Aliso Canyon. And this is the Aliso Canyon gas storage location that blew. There were a series of earthquakes that broke out before that thing blew. Hundreds of thousands of people had to evacuate from up here, and it caused instant nosebleeds as soon as people inhaled that through their mucous membranes. Some kind of corrosive gas stored in there. Okay, anyway, we are right next to it. We're far enough away from it that you would kind of not really associate it, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's just a matter of miles. And I look within 6 to 10 miles for drill points because they can drill out that far. As we go down across the rest of LA, nothing. We have a lone quake down here over to the east. Wait. March Air Reserve Base. What? I don't ever recall seeing these coordinates on the USGS before. Man, let me get some of my coffee. Oh, man. Oh, dude. No, man. No. No. Seriously? See, I don't like, I'm not trying to cause problems. Really not. Oh, wow. This is where also tornado came down. The only thing missing is a giant radar. Where's the radar? You got some military Air Force missile defense radar here? Dang. Must be an air museum there or something. Look at the B-52 bombers, everything. They've got everything there. Well, maybe they just got some terminal Doppler weather radar at this. Where's the power source for this? Oh, man. I just can of worms. It's a can of worms. Once you go, you can never go back. So we got a tornado there, got the earthquake there, got the Air Reserve Base there, likely have high voltage coming into the area from something else, or maybe very powerful microwave radar of some kind here, probably, associated with the military. What is this? Okay, that's gas storage. I'm looking for domes. Looking for radomes. Or phased array radars, or... only a real nerd would even know what that is. What do we have here? Hangars. Those are hangars. Normally the radar is not right at the spot. Normally it's kind of next to, a little bit away. A little bit away from. The reason I'm even looking for it. Oh, the dirt. Look, there it is. Here's the NEXRAD radar. Parallel. Right across, what lake is this? Lake Matthews. Right across Lake Matthews from the airbase is the NEXRAD radar up on the mountaintop. Now, you got to remember what happened with this NEXRAD radar over the past few weeks. Well, first of all, there's a tornado right next to it in 2015. But right here at the base of the mountain here, a series of earthquakes broke out. Then a bunch of fires broke out all the way across and burned this whole thing just like a month ago. All of this. Thousands and thousands. It was the widespread fire that everybody was panicking about. Anyway, it burned out all of this down here. The earthquake struck before the fires. The tornado struck on the other side of the mountain over here. And now we have another round of earthquakes striking at the airbase right next to that. Oh, and of all the places for it to be, in between the two, of all the places, I'm not even going to say it. Nope, not going to say it. You can look at the center of the screen, and maybe you'll see the name. Let me zoom in on it, because this is like some kind of movie or something. Now, a line of quakes going down across Southern California on the western side of Salton Sea for the most part. 2 days ago, a swarm broke out on the east side of Salton Sea, pretty much where the 0.9 is right now. It was a big stack of earthquakes 2 days ago. Now, transferring down to the south, we have another line of quakes breaking out down in Mexico. So let me pull the earthquakes down in Mexico, and then we'll go back up here, up to the northwest, and look up the spot that had the swarm on the San Andreas. Man, I'll tell you what. This job can be fun. I love finding stuff when I'm looking things up. Here's the earthquake epicenter. Here's Cerro Prieto volcano. And in between the earthquake epicenter and the volcano, this massive geothermal pumping operation run by the Mexican government, or at least a private industry there. Electrical generation again. And from the steam, and look how many there are. There's turbines all over the place here. The volcano has graffiti on the inside, stone-stacked graffiti. All right, earthquake right next to it, high voltage generation. Oh, look, we have a hot spot again out here in the middle of the desert again. Back at these weird fields. Don't know what they're doing out there. Some kind of desert farming. Ooh, Wednesday, hello. Hello, come hither. Come hither, Smithers. All right, guys. That's a good update. You know what? Perfect timing. My cat's just letting me know. She's like, are you done yet? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I am. Yeah. We are done. So, earthquake striking down across. I'm expecting an increase, a magnitude-fold increase. Maybe 1.5 magnitude, which could take us up to the upper 4 level. Right now, we're at 0s, 1s, 2s with a couple 3s. Like I said, I'm expecting 2s, 3s, 4s, and a single 5. Or somewhere close to it. So if we're looking at somewhere in the near 4.0 range for the Bay Area, we're looking at somewhere near 5.0 over at the California-Nevada border, and we're looking at something near 4.0 down in Southern California, in between our current sets of quakes. So that puts us down here at the east side of LA. East LA? Central LA to East LA, looking for 4.0 range. And I hope I got this right. If I'm wrong, we'll know it. The magnitudes will be bigger, most likely, not less. I mean, it's hard to go less, right? We're at 0s and 1s right now. So unless there's literally just no earthquakes, which should go up, and that's where we are. So the plate is slightly shifting up in the northwest. That puts us back to Washington and Oregon, where the energy is coming from. But then we can look... Sorry, guys, got a cat right in front of the microphone. Then we can look all the way back up to Alaska, where that energy really comes in from, out of Alaska down into Juan de Fuca. And then we look back to the deep earthquakes that are taking place. And we're seeing an increase in the number of deep earthquakes, which means shallower, larger earthquakes are coming soon, in the next several days. So now we're going to go back to our 7-day feed of 0.0 and greater, and just make sure there's no other earthquakes that have struck since starting this update. You talk for an hour, and at the end of the hour, there may have been an earthquake that struck that's significant. Okay, we were looking at the 4.8 in Japan. It's the last quake, right? The big one that hit. A new 5 has struck. And that's right. Hey, look at that. It's in the Solomon Islands. Let's get our previous earthquakes on. In between our 2 previous 5s. That middle point between our 2 previous 5.4s has been struck now by a new 5 in between the 2. At that middle point, the pinnacle tip of the triangular shape of the fracture zone there, which is a plate boundary. Let me show it to you on the USGS map. New earthquake just struck where the red is, and you see how it makes the pinnacle tip. It goes back down and around this way and back over this way. And we're at the halfway point between the earthquakes over at Papua New Guinea and the earthquakes over at Fiji. Oh, well, the earthquakes over at New Caledonia, technically. So Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, New Caledonia, we go up and around the bend of the plate, and that middle point fills in with a new quake. In the 5 range, so it's not like it's insignificant. It's not a little microquake. Ultimately, we can watch it spread out around the planet. This is, again, the start of another deep earthquake event, if you will. If you live over in the UK or France, We're watching for near 4.0 activity to come in the coast of Normandy. Also, Poland, same thing, 4.0 range. It's nothing to scoff at. It's enough to cause damage. We've seen mine collapses happen after 4.0 activity in Poland. I don't know what to make out of China here, guys, and Russia, but at least we have an earthquake at the Mongolia-Russia border. But lack of reporting, maybe it has gone seismically quiet. It's possible. Not likely, but possible. If it has gone seismically quiet, I would look to the middle of everywhere, which would be Sumatra. And how do I determine that being the middle of everywhere? Here, let me show. That's pretty random, right? Okay, hold on. This here is the middle between all of our other earthquakes, if this is the middle of the plate. That we have to go up and around and back down to see the whole Indo-Australian plate. And we're quiet right in Sumatra going into Java with a new blast at Mount Bromo where the two plate boundaries converge and spread out and go further to the west. That's just a sign to me. Mount Bromo going, as well as it being the middle area with no seismic activity, and it's surrounded on all sides going up and around and back down, that this would be that middle point that has not broken, and it should break, even though China is the spot where there's no earthquakes being reported. So I'm just wondering out loud, where is the seismic for China and Western Indonesia? Europe, it's pretty obvious. It's going over into Croatia. South America, it's pretty obvious. It's going down into Chile. It's going to head down towards the South Sandwich Islands. Here, I don't know how many of my viewers live down here on these little islands north of Antarctica, but if there are any Dutch Sense viewers there, or anybody who gets a message to them, let them know. A 6.7 here usually means upper 5s to near 6 or a swarm of 5s down here to the south, but don't rule out a single larger earthquake. But I would look for a swarm of 5s at RX, South Sandwich Islands, and that's enough to get your attention if you live down there. Let's hope nothing else hits. Hey, wait a second. When did this hit? How did I miss this? Our expected earthquake came rolling in here. Man, I missed this totally. A 4.9, 5.0 earthquake struck over here on the east side of the Caribbean, far east of Puerto Rico, right on the plate boundary. I'm just 3 days late. Oh man, I even canceled the warning. I hate it when I do that. Okay, I issued a 7-day warning telling people to watch for 5.0 activity over here on the east side of the Caribbean from Venezuela up along, and we even talked about Pele volcano out here. I don't know which one it is, and one of these over here on the east side of the Caribbean plate. Talked about Pele. We've been talking about it for a week, and then 3 days ago or 4 days ago, the warning expired. Now, here we are, and the earthquake hits. And it's on the north side, right on the red line, 4.9 to 5.0 earthquake. And a new outbreak did take place in Puerto Rico, but it only went up into the 4 range in Puerto Rico, thank God. So now, again, it swarmed in Puerto Rico. Oh, by the way, our other previous earthquake, striking just north of Jamaica, south of Cuba. But that middle point, look at the middle point. Look at the stack of earthquakes there over the last 2 days. So that middle point, the fulcrum point in Puerto Rico, did swarm. Again, the snare drum was rolling. And then the bass drum kicks in over on the east side. I'll take that as an earthquake forecast hit, even though I'm 72 hours off. Okay? I'm 72 hours off, guys. I'm trying my best. I'm a one-man operation. It's the holidays to top it off. I'm not even paying half attention. No offense, it's just the holidays. You know what I mean. I'm doing my best, but I'm also trying to incorporate in my real life. Now let's take it back all the way to the start of the update. The deep earthquakes, one more time. Shallower, larger earthquakes are going to pop off between our sets of deep quakes to top it all off. So take everything I said into account for this whole update, and then understand that our deep earthquakes themselves have middle points between the deep earthquakes. So the earthquakes have middle points that get filled in, shallow, up towards the surface, and then the deep earthquakes have middle points that get filled in between the sets of deep quakes. Which are the middle points, nonetheless, between our sets of deep quakes? I think it's pretty obvious. We have a middle point here, It's open and quiet, missing any earthquake activity. That middle point's going to break with a larger earthquake, 1 magnitude larger than our deeps, which puts it into the near 6.0 range at that middle point. Same with here, between our sets of deep earthquakes. North Philippines, South Taiwan, 1 magnitude larger than our deeps. That puts us up to near 6.0 activity, or, well, let's see. Yeah, near 6.0 activity. Should all happen in the next 7 to 10 days, the middle fulcrum points between our sets of quakes are going to be filled in. Now that you understand that the middle points between our current clusters of earthquakes are filled in, you can watch it. You can look for that middle point to develop, the quiet area where there's no earthquakes. And then you look at the middle point between the sets of quakes and you say, okay, we have a giant open zone, a bunch of movement on one side and a bunch of movement on the other. We would look to the middle of it for a break to happen like a 2-arm scale where you got a bunch of weight on both sides and it's trying to balance out in between. That balance point, that middle point, is the fulcrum point. And just like a 2-arm scale balancing out, you put too much weight on the scale, it'll break the fulcrum. It'll break on either side or at the fulcrum, and usually it'll break at the middle point that's supporting all the weight up. Now, we're not talking about weight, though, are we? We're talking about seismic waves of some kind. And I say of some kind because then that gets us back to the video that I showed you at the start of the update, which is what causes the waves down in the magma hundreds of miles long? What can cause a hundreds of miles long wave? Well, first of all, you don't see waves naturally form that big. In the ocean, they're not hundreds of miles long. They might be hundreds of feet long, right? Wide, several hundred feet, maybe a few thousand feet wide. VLF, very low frequency or ultra low frequency, is what would be causing these seismic waves to spread out. Now, we're looking at standing waves in a wave tank. The standing waves of low frequency. When they combine, they don't just get chaotic in the tank, they organize and grow in power or amplitude. So imagine these being seismic waves, and that they combine. And when they combine, they form a standing wave that spreads out through the wave tank. But the wave tank is the series of red lines all the way around the planet. So we hammer in on the underside of the plate and then spread out through the wave tank, all the way around the plate, dropping off same-sized earthquakes all the way along the way. Same-sized earthquakes, just like same-sized waves in the wave tank. And each earthquake transfers out and fills in the previous one's middle point, or the peak fills in the trough or the valley. Perfectly, every middle point. I don't even have to move my mouse. Just bounces there, and each wave is symmetrical and spaces out perfectly. And the same thing happens with the earthquakes, but it's not a perfectly square tank. It's Mother Nature's broken chassis edges of the plate boundary all the way around. It's amazing, guys. It really is. It took years to figure this out in the face of everybody telling me nothing was going on. Ha! Yeah, this is all just chance and coincidence, Dutch. Nothing going on there. Don't pay attention to this. Stick to the weather is what they started to tell me. I said, wow, because the weather guys told me to stick to earthquakes. You know, as we were finding tornadoes full of... Oh, man. Dutch, I sent you a message about a 3.3 earthquake in the English channel a few days after you called the magnitude 4 there. That's from a person in chat, Casey Pollard. Thank you for the report. Check the buoys, huh? Uh-oh. Wednesday, should we check the buoys? Let's get the NDBC open. Yes. My feline is the best. No offense to everybody else's best felines. Okay, buoys. Wow! Well, I'll be dang! Look at that! Hey, do you guys see this on the screen? We've got a blinking buoy right in the middle of our area where Mount Bromo is erupting next to it. Hold on. What the heck? What the heck? What is this? What, did somebody hit it? Somebody hit it with a boat or something? What the heck is this? We go from water column height went from 5632 down to 5628. This is meters now. So almost 10 meters, almost a 30-foot drop suddenly, and then it goes back up. And then it goes on for, how many hours is that? 4 hours or so? 5 hours? And then it drops down again, but this time it goes from, 5633 down to 5628. Still in meters. Now, if we look at the event details, which this is what we're looking at here, it shows it goes from 5632.90 down to 5632.88. There's something not right about this. Something doesn't make sense with this. It's got the red marked, but see this? It's marked in green, right? And we would look along the green line for the red. We would look for a 15-second interval along this, but this is clearly going for hours on end. Something going for hours? This is going for hours. This measures for 15 seconds. The 15-second place mark is all the way back here. You can barely see it. Hold on. Let me get it on here. Whoop. Control minus. There we go. Right over here, it's just the smallest little blip. So the 15-second recording is not giving us whatever this is. First of all, because it's way longer than 15. This is 15 seconds. This is several minutes. I'm sorry. This is like 10 minutes or so. Not hours. So, yeah, I guess each one of these is like a minute segment. So, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Starts 5, maybe 10 or 15 minutes each. But nonetheless, the little blip here, this little red dot, is what this is. So, I don't know. If this little blip represents a tenth of a meter, then that lets you know, again, we're talking about like 30 feet drop for like several minutes and then back up, and then another 30-foot drop and then back up. So something went down and came back up, and then went down and came back up. And it went down by like 30 feet and then came back up by 30 feet. But it doesn't look like wave activity unless it's just rogue waves. And if that's rogue waves, then we need to go take a look at the plate boundary map again. Rogue waves of some kind could be causing that. And the buoy is somewhere out here. Now, what's here off the coast of Java? Do you see the red line? Let's go back to the stations from the National Data Buoy Center. And just minus this back out so we can see it. Yeah. So, south of Java, central Java, we can even put the coordinates in on Google Earth for this station to go see it. Let's go get the event details again. Here's the coordinates for the buoy. And we will copy and paste them in on Google Earth. Now, there may be a storm there. What if there's a storm there? Is there some kind of huge tropical system there or something that we need to know about? Well, the only way to find that out is to go to, let's see, Mimic TPW, is that what it's called? No. CIMSS, CIMSS. There's an invest area far to the southwest of Sumatra. A tropical invest area, which means there's nothing that's formed yet. We also have a tropical storm in between Madagascar and Africa where Mayotte Island is, but there's no tropical system there. Okay. We have to check. That could send the buoys into event mode, but there's nothing there. Okay. The buoy is moored right through here to the seafloor. So something going down 30 feet and rising 30 feet. No, more than that. Going down a little bit more than 30 feet the first time, coming back up. And then second time going down like 20-something feet and then coming back up. The only thing I see here, I see a crater. There is a crater here. An undersea mount crater of some kind. There are also undersea volcanoes on both sides. Going over to the west, the Bartlett Seamounts, the Karma Seamounts. The Karma, K-A-R-M-A, Karma Seamounts. Wow. Well, that's what these are. And these are undersea volcanoes, there's no doubt about that. This is the plate boundary, and the depth on this, 18,000 feet below sea level here. This rises and rises and rises up, 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 up. And we get up here to the surface, obviously. So this is down below this. And really, you could think of it like a giant series of mountains that we're looking up. If you guys ever been to Colorado, go to Denver, where Denver, Colorado is the city down at the base of the foothills, and then you look up the steep mountains up to the peaks. Well, that's what this is like, but it's down at the sea floor. And instead of going up 14,000 feet in Colorado, we're going up 18,000 feet from the sea floor. So bigger than the Colorado Rockies going up. That's the ridge that's right here between the two plates. The Indo-Australian plate going up into Thailand, Indonesia, etc. All right. Well, thank you for showing that to me. So there's no tropical systems there. We have a buoy in event mode. The buoy is right along the plate boundary, right next to where the volcano just showed back up that's not normally on the list, and that's Bromo volcano. Add in Mount Sinabung, which is erupting right here. So eruption here at Mount Sinabung, eruption here at Mount Bromo. Right here, right out beyond where the arrow tip is, that's where the buoy is in event mode. We have a bunch of deep earthquakes hammering off, and that's the middle point. Oh my God. Dude. Seriously? Okay, that is the middle point that I was just talking about in my update today. Dude. Word up, man. Word up, guys. This is how science is done. You fight in the face of a bunch of professors who said it couldn't be done to prove your case, to prove them wrong, to show everybody how to do it themselves so they can repeat it and do it themselves. And it's observable science that can be tested in the laboratory. You guys feel free to test my method. I've already published the directions how to forecast an earthquake by Dutchsinse. Just search it, you'll find it. Step-by-step directions how to do this. If you're curious, you want to start doing your own forecasting, what to look for, middle points, fulcrum points, how to find an area between the earthquakes, how to add magnitudes together, just basic stuff that I've figured out over the past several years with the help of my community. And let's end this with a shout out to my communities on Twitch and on YouTube, and I guess on Facebook and Twitter too. But to everybody on Twitch, you guys are financially supporting my operation and seeing to it that it keeps going live in the future for the time foreseeable to come. And for everybody on YouTube, you're doing your part to share it and get the information out to the world on the big apparatus of YouTube and social media, which does make a difference. So between Twitch Live and YouTube sharing the pre-recorded videos, you guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you. And it's made a huge difference in the amount of people that have gotten the warnings, and for the professionals who are starting to become a little bit more open to discussing these things. So thank you. Now, let me remind everybody here, whether you love me, whether you hate me, whether you know me, or whether you don't, will you please take the time to develop an emergency kit? The emergency kit should have change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit and sanitation, medicines if you require them, also a way to charge your mobile phone, a way to charge your communication devices. You'll think of way better things to put into your emergency kit. I'm just getting you going on doing it. Oh, extra IDs, extra debit card, extra cash if you have some. Those basic items will come in very handy. You will actually be one of the most prepared people on your block or in your vicinity if you just take the time to make an emergency kit, because most people just don't do it. Put it somewhere easily accessible to. Do not just pack it away somewhere. Put it somewhere where you can get to it, and make sure the people in your household, the people you work with, if you're doing this at work, it's a good idea to also have something at work, right? Like, even if you just keep it in your desk or somewhere nearby, or even in your car if you're driving. But it's a good idea to have it, and also it can double up for other emergencies. So if the power goes out, well, you know where your emergency kit is. You don't have to fumble through a drawer or try to use your mobile phone flashlight. That you can just go to your emergency kit. You lose your set of keys? I lost my keys, can't find them. Well, at least the emergency kit has an extra set in there. Let me go get them. So it'll come in handy. And then, of course, for fires and floods, when you have to evacuate at a moment's notice, if you already have an extra ID, right? You've got your birth certificate and the other information that you would need to do that already in your emergency kit. That's like minutes saved when you're being told you have to evacuate for a fire or a flood. And that's all the difference in the world. It gives you time to collect things that really matter to you, like photo albums and family heirlooms. Which do you want to collect? Your wallet, your purse, or your family heirlooms? Well, you want to collect both. Why not have all the stuff that's in your wallet or your purse, have a copy of it in the emergency kit? Just an idea, okay? Word up. Much love. And I will save this as a video. We'll get it uploaded over on YouTube. We'll watch it back at a moment's notice whenever you want. Please share it. That's the key for it to get out to the world. You guys be safe. Peace out.